Today, I'm going to give you 5 pieces of woodworking advice. It's something I like to call woodworking not so common sense.
Hit it!
Don't mill your stock too far ahead of time. Even after you mill your boards flat and square, they'll have a tendency to move over time. So if you wait a few days before cutting your joints, you might have a tough time getting everything to register properly and your joinery will be a little bit wonky. So try to cut your joinery within 24 hours of milling the stock to proper size. And if you're not going to get to the project parts for a while, leave them in their rough state and then work on them when you have time. Don't chase thousandths when your eyeballs will do the job. Feeler gauges and calipers can be really handy for dialing in your equipment, but be realistic about it. For instance, if I'm calibrating my chop saw, I can drive myself nuts trying to dial it into the nearest thousandth, or I can simply make a cut and check it with a square. When it's square to my eyes, then it's certainly good enough for woodworking. And by all means, take your time setting up your machines and set them up to the best of your abilities, but where the rubber meets the road is what it does to the work. Here's another example. I know that my table saw surface is by no means perfectly flat. I could stress out about it and try to get a replacement for the top, or I can simply ask myself, do these discrepancies affect the work? If the answer is no, then why am I worried about it? Always drill pilot holes for screws. Without a pilot hole, wood tends to split. The denser the wood, the more likely this is to happen. So it's a real good idea to pre-drill a hole so the body of the screw has a clear space to drive through. Most times, we want to countersink our screw heads, and the pilot holes are typically built into the process, thankfully. Whenever possible, use cauls with your clamps. Clamps are made of metal and plastic, and those are typically harder than the wood that we're clamping. As a result, the wood dents under pressure. Most times you don't even realize it until you're applying a coat of finish, so take precautions by using cauls. A caul is nothing more than a scrap piece of wood that sits between the clamp and the workpiece. It not only protects the wood, but helps distribute the clamping pressure. And here's a tip fellow woodworker Michael Olson brought up in a recent live session: don't use wood that's harder than the wood you're clamping it to. So if the caul is made of something really dense, but the wood itself is pine or poplar, something soft, the wood as a caul could even dent, right? So use softer woods for your cauls if possible. Whatever you do, don't surround a solid wood panel with a frame. I see folks doing this time and time again, and it may look beautiful when you finish it, but nearly every instance ends in disaster. Wood expands and contracts across its width, so if you frame it out, as I did in this chessboard, the wood has no place to go and simply busts out of the frame, which is what eventually happened to this piece. So why is something like this okay? Clearly, it's a solid wood panel and a frame around it. Well, when they built it, they allowed for the movement of this middle panel. It essentially floats in that space because the grooves are cut a little bit deeper to allow the panel to expand and contract across the width. If you want to surround a panel with a frame, the panel needs to be made from a stable substrate like plywood, as is the case with this hall table, which features a Hatoba frame and a raised center panel made from plywood and shop sawn veneer. Over time, this all becomes second nature, but in the beginning, it's really nice to have someone point these things out so you could avoid making the mistakes in the first place. Thanks for watching.